Welcome to this comprehensive training module on managing users and groups in Microsoft Entra ID. Today, our primary focus will be on the vital topic of managing external users, enabling you to facilitate secure and efficient collaboration across organizational boundaries. First, let's define exactly what we mean by an external user. In Microsoft Entra ID, user accounts are fundamentally categorized as either member users or guest users. Member users are the traditional accounts that your own Microsoft Entra tenant actively manages. On the other hand, guest users are external accounts that your tenant does not manage, but to which you deliberately assign permissions. These guest accounts are often created automatically when your employees share content, like a OneDrive file, with someone outside the company. Through Microsoft Entra B2B collaboration, these external users can securely access your applications and services without compromising your organization's data security. The key mechanism here is that they simply bring their own identity, which could be a personal Microsoft account or an account from their own company's Entra tenant, to access your shared resources. Let's look at the diagram on the screen to visualize this relationship. On the left, we have your Microsoft Entra tenant, which represents your organization's secure boundary. When you need to collaborate, you send an invite to an external user. Notice the critical step here. The external user brings their own identity. This is represented by the diamond shape showing a Microsoft account or another Entra ID tenant. The actual password verification and authentication happen at their home identity provider. Once they successfully authenticate there, they are granted access back into your Entra tenant to collaborate on the specific resources you've shared. It's a clean, highly secure, and federated approach to access management. Now that we know what external users are, let's discuss why implementing Microsoft Entra B2B collaboration is essential for modern businesses. In today's interconnected world, organizations rarely operate in a vacuum. You frequently need to collaborate with external partners, contractors, or customers. Creating standard internal accounts for all these external parties creates a massive security risk and an unsustainable administrative burden. By leveraging guest accounts, organizations can seamlessly expand their reach and collaborate effectively. The primary benefit here is security and control. You enable these external users to access your applications and services without compromising the security of your corporate data. Because the authentication is handled by the user's home identity provider, your IT help desk never has to deal with password resets or account lockouts for these external collaborators. Furthermore, their permissions can be strictly managed and instantly revoked by the inviting organization at any time. This flowchart breaks down the core business drivers behind using B2B guest accounts. At the top, we start with the primary business need to work with outside entities. This branches out into three distinct operational goals: secure collaboration, reducing admin overhead, and data protection. Secure collaboration is achieved because you are using enterprise-grade federation protocols. Admin overhead is reduced because you are offloading identity lifecycle and password management to the external user's home tenant. Finally, data protection is maintained because you keep absolute, granular control over authorization to your resources. All three of these critical requirements converge perfectly into the solution at the bottom: B2B guest accounts in Microsoft Entra ID. Moving on to the basics, it is crucial to understand the technical distinction between a member and a guest within the Microsoft Entra directory. When you view your user list, you will notice a specific property called user type. For anyone invited to collaborate from outside your organization, this user type is explicitly set to guest as soon as the account is created. This is not just a cosmetic label, it carries heavy technical weight. Guest users are assigned a highly restricted set of default permissions within your directory. For example, while standard member users can typically read a wide variety of directory information, guest users cannot enumerate the list of all users or groups by default. They are kept in a tightly scoped environment to prevent reconnaissance. Member users, conversely, are the internal accounts that your Microsoft Entra tenant actively and fully manages. I have put up a simple pie chart to visually emphasize the vast difference in default permission footprints between members and guests. The larger slice represents member permissions, which are broad and allow for general directory interaction and visibility to facilitate internal teamwork. The significantly smaller slice represents guest permissions. Microsoft intentionally designs this footprint to be incredibly restricted. When you invite an external user, you are only giving them the exact slice of access they need to perform their collaborative tasks, completely locking them out of the broader internal directory structure by default. This aligns perfectly with the security principle of least privilege. Let's walk through the actual process of inviting an external user. The operation is straightforward and seamlessly integrated into the Azure portal. As an administrator or a user with the correct directory permissions, you will navigate to the main user's overview blade within Microsoft Entra ID. From the top-level menu, instead of creating a standard internal user, you select the New User drop-down and specifically choose the Invite External User option. The system will prompt you for the external user's email address and give you the powerful option to craft a personalized welcome message. This message will be embedded directly in the invitation email sent to the user's inbox. It is highly recommended to use this personalized message field to provide business context, so the recipient knows exactly why they are receiving an invitation to your tenant. Once you click Invite, the guest user object is immediately created in your directory as a placeholder. This sequence diagram maps out the exact flow of the invitation process. It starts on the left with the administrator interacting with the Microsoft Entra ID portal. The admin selects the option to invite an external user and provides the necessary email and context message. Microsoft Entra ID then takes over and performs two actions almost simultaneously. It dispatches a secure email invitation across the internet to the external user's provided address, and it immediately creates a placeholder guest object inside your directory. This placeholder object is incredibly useful because it allows you to assign initial access rights and group memberships even before the user has actually read their email. After the invitation is sent, the ball is in the external user's court. This brings us to the invitation redemption process. When the guest user is initially added to the directory, their account is given a specific consent status, which you can view using tools like PowerShell that starts as pending acceptance. During this preliminary phase, the user will simply appear as an invited user in the Azure portal. To actually gain access, the user must open the email invitation and click the redemption link. They are then securely routed through a first-time consent process. This is a crucial security and privacy step where the external user explicitly agrees that your organization can read their basic profile information. Immediately after the guest user accepts this invitation and provides their consent status value in your directory dynamically changes to accepted. Only after this status change is the user fully authorized to traverse into your tenant. Let's look at the state machine diagram on the screen to deeply understand the lifecycle of the consent status. The process begins when the invite is dispatched, placing the guest account into the initial pending acceptance state. The account remains frozen here until the user actively clicks the redemption link in their email. This action transitions them into the review consent state, presenting them with the necessary privacy and access prompts. Once they review the terms and hit accept, the final transition occurs, shifting the account state to accepted. This strict, enforced state progression ensures that no external entity is active in your environment without explicit, tracked consent. Now, let's take a deep dive into securing and governing this process using external collaboration settings. Out of the box, Microsoft Entra ID is configured for maximum collaboration velocity, meaning that by default, all users and admins have the ability to invite guests into your organization. For many enterprise environments, this default is far too permissive. You can strictly control how guest users are invited by navigating to the Manage External Collaboration Settings blade, located under User Settings. Here, you can enforce rigid guest invite restrictions. For instance, you can lock down the invitation capability so that only users with specific administrator roles, or users explicitly assigned to a specialized guest inviter role, can send invitations. Furthermore, this blade allows you to lock down the guest user access restrictions. You can explicitly configure the system so that guest users have extremely limited access to the properties and memberships of directory objects. The flowchart currently displayed outlines the two primary security pillars found within the External Collaboration Settings blade. The root splits into guest access restrictions on the left and guest invite restrictions on the right. Under access restrictions, the absolute best practice for high security is to choose the most restrictive option, preventing guests from seeing any internal directory data or mapping your organization. On the right side, for invite restrictions, you should strongly consider moving away from the default "everyone can invite" setting. Instead, restrict this powerful capability exclusively to administrators and users granted the guest inviter role to ensure a tightly controlled, auditable perimeter. While inviting a single external user is simple, enterprise scenarios often require onboarding dozens or even hundreds of external partners simultaneously. Microsoft Entra ID provides robust bulk operation capabilities directly within the Azure portal, allowing you to invite users in massive batches. From the primary user's blade, You select the Bulk Operations drop-down and choose Bulk Invite. This process is broken down into 3 highly manageable steps. First, you download a comma-separated values, or CSV, template. Second, you edit the CSV file locally, populating it with the necessary bulk update values like the external email addresses and personalized messages. Finally, you upload the updated CSV file and submit the operation. The portal handles the heavy lifting, processing the batch asynchronously in the background. You can monitor the exact status of your bulk invitation run by navigating to the Bulk Operation Results blade, which tracks the upload time, completion time, and success rate. This linear flowchart illustrates the seamless pipeline for executing bulk guest invitations. You start at the far left by downloading the standardized CSV template provided by the Azure portal. You then move to the data entry phase, populating the required fields like email addresses and redirect URLs for your batch of users. Once your data file is prepared, you upload the CSV back into the portal. The final step is simply monitoring the execution. The system processes the file row by row, dispatching invitations globally, and you can track the entire progression in real time through the dedicated Bulk Operation Results dashboard. For our final slide, we must address the ongoing governance and lifecycle management of these external guest accounts. Once a guest user is invited and accepts, they can be treated much like a standard user for authorization purposes. They can be added directly to a specific directory group or assigned to an enterprise application. To enforce robust, zero-trust security, it is an absolute best practice to apply conditional access policies specifically targeted at your external guest users. Because Microsoft Entra acts as your ultimate security boundary, you can require guests to perform multi-factor authentication or agree to formal terms of use before they access any sensitive corporate data. Finally, the lifecycle of a guest account must be actively managed. Administrators can and should regularly review guest access. When a contract ends or a collaboration project is finalized, administrators can simply revoke access or completely delete the guest user account from the directory, instantly terminating their access. This final diagram brings together the critical elements of the ongoing guest lifecycle. From the central lifecycle node, we branch out into 3 continuous administrative responsibilities. We assign the guest to specific groups and apps to grant targeted, least privilege access. Crucially, we wrap that access in security by applying conditional access policies, such as forcing MFA. Both of these proactive actions lead to a state of secure collaboration. However, the lifecycle doesn't end there. The third branch is the continuous, auditable process to review and revoke access. When the business justification for the guest account expires, this process flows directly into terminate access, ensuring your environment remains clean and secure over time.